So this is the Moza FSR version 1 wheel. Um, Basically it was broken. However, I was really excited to find one of these. Moza typically is one of the, I don't want to say better value, but it definitely is a little more affordable than some of the high-end wheels. It's a Formula style wheel. I do prefer Formula style wheels because I do like Formula 1. You can see one of the differences compared to, for example, GT style wheels is the presence of the screen and a lot of buttons, because Formula 1 cars have a lot of functionalities. So you typically want to have several buttons so that you can modify those functions while driving. So we paid basically just under $200 for this wheel, which is a pretty good price. These wheels typically sell for about $600. And at $200, I thought it was a pretty good deal. But one of the issues with buying used stuff is you never know what you're gonna get. You might be lucky and it's a simple issue, or you might run into a situation where, for example, there's the electronics on the inside is completely destroyed. I'm also very fascinated to see what the electronics look like on this particular wheel. I have looked at some of Moza's other hardware, sim hardware. For example, I've looked at 2R5 sim wheelbases. But this is the first time I'm getting one of their more high-end wheels to evaluate. So in this video, I'll show you how a simple paddle shifter caused this wheel to stop functioning. When the wheel arrived, there was basically no power. We plugged it into the Moza hub and there was absolutely no power at all. That was one of the main symptoms, just as described by the seller. So this video is about repairing this wheel, and what I'm trying to do is give back to the community by showing these videos. Sim racing, as you know, is a pretty expensive hobby. A lot of time, as mentioned, this wheel is about $600, and if you could find one of these broken, as I said before, I paid $200 for it, just under $200. You could significantly save, money on a purchase like this. But this video will go step by step on how to disassemble it, how to diagnose the issues and look for the problem. And I think you'll see in this video we were pretty lucky that it ended up being a more or less simple issue with this wheel, and you'll see it at the end that we have a fully functional wheel. We started disassembling. This is a part of the video how I basically will show the wheel being opened up, where the screws are and which connectors need to be unplugged. Use this part of the video to assist if you're interested in disassembling your own wheel. Maybe you'll pick up something that will be of interest or can help you in your repair. Nothing here is particularly difficult, but when you remove the front plate, you have to watch the wiring. You really don't want to snag a cable or stress a connector and create a new problem. I was also very interested in what the MCU Moza is using here. In this case, it's an STM32F4, an ARM based microcontroller that I'm pretty familiar with from the drone community. They are more or less used in flight controllers. However, visually the board looked fine. Next, I wanted to do a power test while probing the board. I happen to have a Moza USB hub from a previous purchase. I powered the wheel through the hub and checked again, still nothing. No lights, no response, completely dead. At this point, almost by accident, we disconnected the paddle shifter, and lo and behold, the wheel powered on. And it was fully alive. All functionality seemed to be present. So it seemed like something on the paddle shifter assembly was pulling the entire system down in terms of power. This section shows how to remove the paddle shifter. It's just a few screws and the entire assembly comes out pretty easily. Once removed, there are 2 more screws to take off the back plate, and then you remove the shaft to fully access the internal PCB. What's interesting here is the type of paddle shifter Moza used. Most paddle shifters are either mechanical switches or Hall effect sensors. This one appears to be some type of optical design. It looks like there's a light source and a sensor measuring reflection or distance as the paddle moves. That's something you don't see very often in sim racing wheels, so it immediately stood out. When I flipped the paddle shifter board over, the issue became very obvious. There was a capacitor with a visible bubble on it. They can effectively short the circuit, dragging the entire power rail down. That explains why the whole wheel appeared dead. We removed the capacitor using some low melt soda and flux, which makes the job a lot easier. Technically, you can test the board without the capacitor installed, since it's just like acting as a filter. But we decided to replace it properly. Ideally, you measure the exact value, but in this case I use a capacitor from an old donor board, roughly the same size and type, just to confirm the fix. Later on I can measure the capacitor on the other paddle shifter and install the correct value. So here you can see I struggled a bit. This solder was clearly high temperature lead free, so getting the new capacitor on was harder than removing the old one. A good pair of tweezers and a microscope helped here a lot. After installation, we checked for shorts. There should be no continuity to ground for a good capacitor. With the paddle shifter connected, I went ahead and tested the wheel with some power. And lo and behold, the LED immediately came back on. And as you can see, everything initialized normally. buttons registered correctly in the software, and wheel is fully functional again. So just a quick summary. We indeed got a wheel that arrived completely dead. The main board from inspection looked fine. However, on disassembly we found a failed capacitor on the paddle shifter. So we replaced that and the wheel came back to life. If you like these kind of repair videos, I've done similar fixes on wheels from Cube Controls and Gomez Industries. And I have some more coming up. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.